Hey guys, how you doing? You're not going to be able to guess where we are today, but I'll give you a hint. Directly across there is Grand Maine, or Manion. I'm mispronouncing it, but there's an island right there, and that island belongs to Canada. We are on the most easternmost point in the entire United States. We're in Lubec, Maine. And right now, we're taking this little trail to the West Quoddy Lighthouse, the farthest lighthouse in the United States. I originally wanted to visit this lighthouse years ago because of Forrest Gump. Lo and behold, this is not the lighthouse that he really runs to, but I thought it was. So I was like, oh, well, when I'm older, I have to make sure that I drive there. But, yeah, you'll see it in a second. But instead right now, as we make our way to this beautiful lighthouse, and we're on this awesome trail, we could not have asked for a nicer day here in Maine. Look at the beautiful trees. I mean, this is nature at its finest. This is what makes me happy to be home. And now if we're lucky enough, well, we're not going to be lucky enough, but there are minke whales, humpback, right whales, and finback whales that all live in the waters down below. Between us and Canada right there. Canada's also that way too. This is all part of New Brunswick. There's a whole history to it, but another time. So here's the lighthouse right here. Look at that. Isn't she a beauty? So here she is, the West Quoddy Lighthouse, and she looks out directly across at Campobello Island. This is the Quoddy Narrows, this water in between us, and we'll see the other side of it. Well, we'll see another part of it when we're over in, like, the Lubec village. The Bay of Fundy, I think, wraps around to the left, and if you go directly out, you're in the Gulf of Maine and the Atlantic Ocean. It's kind of funny being here because I was here last summer, not here at the lighthouse, but in Lubec, just for a few hours. But the summer before that, I actually spent the night in a converted sardine factory right on the water. And it was so quiet. I've never stayed in a place where it was just silence. So even now as I'm walking around, even though there are lots of tourists for this area, there's really not. Like, it's just serene. And that's the thing about coming up here. If you really need to get in touch with nature but still feel like that, I'm gonna say, like, that's the one thing about being up in this location, is that you're still near stuff, but if you truly just need to decompress, there's no better place to be. Might as well go down and look at the beach, right? It's funny, in New Hampshire, we don't have trees like this. Like, we do, but not to this quantity. Now, if you keep going down that way, we won't. We're going to take these, the stairs of death instead. So, for the adventurers, you can come down to the water level. Entering this way, the farther in towards Canada you go, between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, is the Bay of Fundy, which has the most extreme tides in the entire world. Rocks. I wish you could smell the salt. something special about it to me. So yeah, this is about as busy as the Quoddy Lighthouse gets. Pretty cool, huh? As we loop back into town, towards the village of Lubec, which is directly over there, you'll see over here, there's a bunch of trucks of guys. 1, 2, 3. Well, there were 4. I guess now they're down to 3. I don't know if they're digging for clams right now, if they're digging for worms. I'm thinking clams. I mean, if you want to talk about a back-breaking job, that's one for you. You know, just... But I will say this, I'm very appreciative of the clams that they dig up. And if they're doing worms... I watched a show once on lucrative jobs, but they were like dirty jobs. It wasn't the show Dirty Jobs. I forget what it was called. But anyway, they follow these, not the clammers, but the guys that dig for the bloodworms here in Maine. And what I learned, while they're chasing the tides, trying to go to their different spots, what they do though is they can get per worm between 50 cents to like $1.50 per worm. So these guys, depending on how good a day is, how good a day that they were having, they could make upwards of like $400. By the way, if any wormers are watching this, I'm off for summer vacation a little bit longer. If you need some help, I would love to do it just once. I'm kind of bummed that the weather is so perfect, because the last 2 times I was here, there was like a sea fog covering between Campbell Island over there and the village of Lubec, and it looked like it was swallowing the bridge. Would have been really neat to film. Maybe tomorrow. So there's a cemetery right there. And the Historical Society's right here. Look at the view. I forget which bay this is right here, because I get them all confused, to be honest. But we're coming into the center of the village, and it's just a quaint little town with 2 pizza places, I believe. And yeah. If anyone wants to loan me some money, I would love to buy property here. Even though there is a scary street right over here called Horror Hill. Right here. Horror Hill. Say that 5 times. And it's interesting, this town, their churches are at the top of the hill. But I just find it interesting. They put them up here. Put them up top. So what I want to do is this. We're going to go grab a bite to eat, and then I'll walk you through the majority of this village, this little hamlet. And if you look straight across the water, again, that's Campbell Island. It's Canada. Cool, huh? Can't help being a local, you know what I mean? I've never actually been here during low tide where I've actually seen it, so it's kind of funny because it's throwing me for a major loop right now. Because I was secretly hoping, and maybe they'll come out even at low tide, but I was hoping to show you some seals. I know, like where else do you see seals? So we are at the inn on the Wharf. This used to be like the last sardine factory, I think, in the entire village. We'll get into that later about the sardines, but it's well, very shortly actually. But we're gonna go grab something to eat here and get some fresh seafood. But look how cute this is. They redid it. So it's no longer sardines, it's all a pleasant place to stay. Well, I ordered a beverage of choice. You'll see it momentarily. Cheers. And Got some lobster stew and some clams because I know they're fresh. Got the beautiful view right here of the water. So the last time that I was here, the last time I ate in this restaurant, I actually ate here 3 times, was when I spent 2 nights here. I was here one day for lunch, then for dinner, and I decided to come again for dinner the following day. Because I forget, I think I came in the middle of the week. It was for my birthday. And it was funny because it's just a note that some of the restaurants here in town, they are closed, like on Mondays or on the Tuesday nights. And I just happened to come at that time. But this place, it was open, and it's great. It's funny, there's all these memories flooding back from that time because it was literally the first summer with the pandemic. So everyone was wearing masks, but I knew that if I came up here, I probably was okay. There were 0 cases. People who were wearing masks, they were all here on the chin. So I felt very secure and safe that I would be okay. Which is just what my logic was. I was like, if I go to the easternmost point in the entire United States, I would be fine. It was funny though, because I saw some plates from the state of New York then, and I was annoyed because I was like, why aren't you staying in your state? Here's our lobster stew, overflowing with awesomeness, I'm sure. So, look how much lobster's in this. It's all lobster. It's hot. Good. The nice thing is I know how fresh it is. And now the clams that we saw being dug up are right here, ready to be eaten. All right, here we go. They're perfect. Perfect. Feeding time is over. Got back in the car and drove, I don't know, a third of a mile down to the public parking area / where you can put your boat in. I realized afterwards I probably should have stayed a little bit longer and walked out on their wharf so you could see the views, but instead I'll just take you to any other dock that's right down the way so you can see how close they are to the water. Canadian lighthouse right there. It was a little surreal being in there having the meal. I looked at this girl. No, I wasn't checking her out. I heard her talk to another girl, and they're younger. And I was like, I heard him say a couple words. And I was like, they're Ukrainian, definitely. So where I wouldn't have done this in Poland, I had no issue here. I said, where in the Ukraine are you from? Are you from the Dnipro area? And this one girl, she looked at me, her eyes got bright. She's like, yes, actually, we're from the central part of Ukraine. And so we had a little bit of a conversation. And isn't this beautiful? If you look straight across that way, that is good old Eastport. That's the most easternmost city, incorporated city in the United States. And it's actually easier if you take a boat taxi right here on this boat tour right here and take the 20 minutes or so to go along Moose Island over there to Eastport as opposed to the hour drive. Just saying. Back to my Ukrainian friends. So it was interesting because both of the girls are only here for the summer. One of them has been in Poland the last year on a student visa, and she can't go back to her home right now. And the other girl is only here until September, and then I think she's also on a student visa as well. But yeah, so it was a little surreal for me because I just came from Poland, and there are so many refugees there from country of Ukraine, and including the fact that I had spent some time over there on a trip. So I said to them both, I said, how does it feel going from like the city of Kiev, which one of the girls was from, to here? And she just smiled because you can't compare them. One's a major city, and then here in Lubec, as you will see, is not a major city. Its heyday was back in like when it was the smoked herring capital back in the 1800s, when they had like 3,000 residents, and then when it switched from the herring to sardines, then it became the sardine capital, and now it's neither. But you know, that's just kind of how things go with these places. But I will say this, compared to Ukraine, even when I was there with the constant threat of a missile attack, at least they don't have to worry about that here. So sure, they're helping out in the kitchen, and it's very slow, but it's safe. And I just didn't expect to see anyone here. So here's the boat ramp that goes into Johnson Bay, which is to the left. If you go straight past the Quoddy Narrows, you're in the Passamaquoddy Bay. I seriously have never been here when the water has been this low. Go figure. Usually the water, and you can tell, like, when you can see the water line, this is usually where I see the water, is where it's up significantly higher. I never see any of this seaweed covered parts, and this is where the the seals come up and they say hi to me. It's the Canadian Lighthouse, Canadian Border Patrol, and then Lubec and Cohills. If you're thinking about visiting here, just so you know, the demographic is very white and old. No offense to the more seasoned citizens. I mean, I have white hair myself, but most of the people I see are definitely, I'd say, 65 and up. This always gets me. Lost Fisherman's Memorial. They have one of those over in Eastport as well. And right here, so this lights up at night, and then they list the names of all the fishermen that have been lost. Oh. I wonder if they're doing this from the beginning of Lubec. Alright, so let me show you the metropolis of Lubec. God. Just as I said that for the tourist, now we have like the hipster crowd. So here's Cohills Inn. Past the Water Street Tavern and Inn. I don't know if it's still open, but it's also Sunday, and these places have different types of for the hours. Little cafe / gift shop. And then here is like your busy part of the main street. And this is it. This is the entire Main Street community. You have some craft shops. You have your hardware store. You have a kid who thinks it's cool to use a trike on a sidewalk that doesn't exist. It's an espresso bar. I haven't seen that place before. Here's the Lubec Brewing Company. Very popular, actually. But again, there's not like, there's a lot of variety. Here's lupine. That is way out of season now, but it's so cute to see it. See, they have like an outside beer garden right next to the Memorial Library. Got an art gallery here. And honestly, that's about it. This is really funny. Beware of the dog. The cat is not trustworthy either. I love that. It's true. Cats are more dangerous. There's a, looks like a pet clothing store. And what the hell are these? These are the marvelous dung beetles. Wow, I did not expect there to be such amazing pieces of art here in Maine, in Lubec, Maine. Woo! And look at this, we got some whale bones right here. And look at this guy. This guy's had a bad day, don't you think? He reminds me of like a Sesame Street character that they probably had on the show once, and they decided it would scare the kids, so they never let him on again. Jeez. And then last but not least, right here you have Love in First Light, which I like that. It's a gift shop and ice cream shop. I'm kind of craving ice cream, actually. It might be worth a shot. Chocolate lovers ice cream. I was going to ask about this because I saw a couple electric cars, and I was like, how the hell did you get here? So there you go. There is a charging station. Because, like, honestly, even for me for today, it was another, once I got to Machias to cut over here, I had to take a side route, and it took an hour from there to get to here, and there's no gas station. So now, let me show you some side streets. Look at the purple. Yeah, this is what I like. All these flowers. And again, note how quiet it is. Some of you would probably find this too quiet, is my guess. Lubec itself, it's kind of a funny village. Well, town. I don't know. Yeah, we'll call it a town. It's funny because it literally has been relevant since the 1700s. And as I mentioned before, with the smoked herring, and then this is a veteran memorial, by the way. They sent a force. There was like a regiment. No, it wasn't a regiment. I think there were like 10 volunteers from here that went to fight in the Civil War. Maybe 15. Maybe it was a bigger number. I don't know. The point was, they went to fight and they lost one of their sons in the Battle of Fredericksburg. But this entire memorial right here, hey, for my Polish viewers, look, they didn't mow. This memorial right here, though, they have to World War I, World War II, over there, so people don't forget. And I know I'm pointing with my spoon. Very impressive, I know. So this town was incorporated in 1811 as part of Massachusetts, actually. And then, when Maine became a state, became its own place in Maine. Not walking on the sidewalk, being rebellious. These people just freshly mowed their grass. Lubec, after the United States became the United States, this was a big fishing trading area. And a lot of smuggling was taking place in this part of the world. So George Washington had to send his newly commissioned Coast Guard. They weren't called the Coast Guard at the time. It was like the I forgot the name. It was like the Revenue Service or something like that. Anyway, in the 1800s, I think over 40 ships were built here because it was a major port. Where I was showing you for the city of Eastport, that actually is the deepest natural port in the United States. It's like at 67 or 69 feet. I should say in the continental United States. Look at this house. It's pretty, huh? We haven't had a good walking tour in a while, so I figured we would just walk around the streets, take a look. Looks like they're renovating that one. And while we can't get into the churches, since I do churches, we're just gonna one right there, one right over here. So anyway, was trying to think. Oh yeah. So during the pandemic, when I was here, because the country wasn't letting in any of the cruise ships, they actually had a cruise ship docked back in that city because it was the only place that can handle one. And the crew had to just stay on that ship until they finally released it, I don't know, months and months later. Going down the side street away from the churches. And look at this, without even trying, I'm back at where we ate. So I can take you out on the wharf. Go figure. Well done, Johnny boy, well done. Sometimes I try to imagine what it'd be like to live here all the time. I think if you need to be around people, it's probably not a great spot. But if you like your solitude and need the occasional interaction, it's pretty cool. It would work. Right underneath the restaurant, here's their dock. So when I stayed here last time, I'll show you how close I was. Hey. So, yeah, that was my room right there. And then you turn, and boom. Or it was one room down. But it was right on the water. Off straps. And you won't be able to tell exactly from here, but pretty much right where the camera is pointed is my campground, where I am spending the night. All right. Now, if you have come this far to Lubec and have walked the streets, maybe had a beverage of choice at their local brewery, before you go across the international bridge, which, by the way, they used to have a marathon race up here, if I remember right, until the pandemic. But before you go across and use your passport, what I would do, what I usually do, even though I do have my passport, but we'll do Canada next week. I would go down this side street. You actually could go either one of these streets. They're great. But what you do is you pass their water treatment plant, and you go to their town beach. And hopefully this guy from Illinois doesn't go there, because I like it when the beach is private, meaning it's just me. Although, really, if we're being honest, the beach is pretty private regardless, even if there are cars here. And you'll see that momentarily. Now, right over there is the school, and there's trails that go from the school to the beach. Could go down that way, or this way. We're going to go a little bit this way. And no, for the second year in a row, I'm not here in time for the flowers. They actually cut them back. If you look yeah, they did. They cut them back. Because usually, the last few times I've been here, these pink flowers have been overflowing, and it's been glorious. I think they realize they have more than 2 tourists now, so they had to cut it back. What a shame. But anyway, there's this trail that they made, and there's different points for you to get off onto the beach. But it also connects to the school, which I think is great. You know, in case I ever work at the school, right? When I'm out here, I can't help but think a little bit of Stephen King and how he creates his stories predominantly in Maine. And I could see this place as like a quintessential good Maine town. Because these folks, the ones that have been here, the locals, they obviously stick together. And I would assume that living here is completely different than other parts of Maine. I mean, you're a border town, but, I mean, heck, you're a 4-hour drive from the center of Maine. Unless you're a speed demon. So here's my beach. And usually I'm used to the water being up quite a bit. So as I said, we're really dealing with low tide, which I'm not used to. But if you want a beach all to yourself, here you go, folks. The ironic thing is, when I was in Southport, UK, I never managed to get to the water when it was actually high tide, so I never saw the water. Here, I do know it exists. I've been here enough times. But it's a little sad. I like my private beach. I will say this, though. On a Sunday night, that's what today is, at 4:30, if you want to be entirely alone, it's not going to happen. I have a group of people from out of state that don't know any better and are like, oh, let's go check out the beach. So it's me and 6 of my wannabe friends. So this is very odd. We've come across a crime scene. Clams have been dug. I see, oh, I know why. This is a clammer's, this is where they claim their territory. She left her basket here, a water basket over there, and then her digger right over there. And that's smart, actually. I mean, that's what I'm assuming. That's the story that I'm creating, the storyteller, as I see all the clams. That's funny, because my army of Jonathan Livingston seagulls are all right here, and because I walked over here, they're all like, oh, nothing's going on here, nothing at all. But look, here's what they use. They use this right here. It's like a big claw. And they also use it for worms. And see? Clam's gone. That's right, seagulls. Walk away, you criminals. Filthy animals. You can see there's another pot over there where they're going at it as well. Yeah, sure. Why don't we walk over here and see for ourselves. It's funny, I can see all the spots that have been dug, but like you had that spot, and then directly in front of us, my shoes are going to be caked in dirt, by the way, in mud. But I want to see the scene because I think these birds are cracking me up. You guys see the worms? We start digging these worms up and make some money. God, it is, no, I've never done this before. If you're curious, have I ever trudged out this far, but with the tide out? I think we're okay. Oh, I almost fell. So, that's Lubec, guys. I mean, I'm sure there's more for me to show you, but I think I hit all of the important spots. So, I hope that you enjoyed this brief tour, or as brief as it usually is for us. And, you know, I'm sure we'll touch base again soon. All right, guys. Peace.